Hello, it's your main man, the Pan Man. This is part 3 of a short video series I am doing to promote my upcoming eGuide, the Game Music Remix series. Everything spoken about inside of this video and video series can be found inside of the eGuide. If you're interested, sign up to the waitlist below in the description, and you'll get a 50% discount once it releases, just for you guys. Now, remixing music is very fun until you start needing something from your music, because you start thinking about other things that you probably don't want to think about, or that you have to think about but don't want to think about, you know what I mean? You want to get more views, or you're just starting out, or you heard that just doing game music is a good way to attract game developers. You're basically after some form of ROI, return on investment, for your time, for your music, just getting your music to work for you. If the crowd doesn't think your remixes are good, then you're not really going to go anywhere, you're going to plateau. Before I continue though, I want to be clear that more views does not translate to better ROI. Like, for example, you can have a lot of views but struggle to monetize your content. You can have a lot of subscribers but still struggle to find game developer clients. To that end, marketing is a very big part of fixing those issues, but I actually talk about marketing in its own video, so keep an eye out for part 5, I believe. This video addresses the remixes themselves. You can take these as tips to help increase your remixes, potential pitfalls, just general advice. I'm not trying to harp anyone here. My only goal here is to help you improve your remixes so you can get to where you want to go with things. The first reason is something I talked about in part 1, instrument swapping. Now, I know that sounds odd, but it's when you put this against most of the other stuff I talk about, you start to realize that this is a lot more common than you think. Instrument swapping is exactly what it sounds like. All you're doing is just swapping the instruments from the original to whatever you have on your software. To put that another way, you're not modifying the track in any way. You're not enhancing it, you're not subtracting or adding from it. You're not doing anything but just swapping instruments with it. Now, I understand that hearing the same song with different instrumentation, that's different. What I'm talking about is making little to no effort to change anything. You're not really problem solving, you're not modifying, you're not alterating. Well, you might be alterating. That's a little hanging fruit there from part 1. But something I also mentioned in part 1, if people wanted to listen to the original, they would just listen to the original. I understand that some remixers, they're instrument swapping basically, but it seems as though it's working. If you dig deeper, there's often some other factor involved. For example, how long have they been on the platform? If you've been around a while, you're going to have a decent following. Do they have a known game under their belt? I spoke about that in part 2 actually. A composer having a actually released game under their belt is really, really good for marketing, and it's very important. How long has that song been uploaded? Sometimes songs go viral after they've already been posted. Maybe it's a popular song that people are constantly searching for. You'll often find some reason that it's not just instrument swapping. For example, I was researching some Sonic remixes, and I came across a peculiar Sonic remix from this composer. I listened to it, and it wasn't bad, actually. It was really, really good. But for the topic of this video, I wasn't hearing anything that wasn't instrument swapping. Now, the instruments themselves sounded good, but I didn't understand why the view count was so high. There was a disconnect for me as far as making this video and stuff. Come to find out, that remix belonged to Pascal Stifel, or on YouTube he's known as Plasma 3 Music. He's the composer for a 3D platformer called A Hat in Time, which, good game by the way, I highly recommend it. And obviously that view count makes sense. He's already has a game under his belt that's leveraged him up. So at that point, any remix that he does is going to naturally get attention because people are looking for that Hat in Time sound inside of whatever remixes that he puts up. Back to instrument swapping, I'm not saying that it's bad. It's not good when you're just starting out, when you don't have much under your belt yet. The story I just told, that's not something that someone that's just getting into the game can really leverage at this point, you know what I mean? You got to avoid instrument swapping, you gotta focus on being unique. And again, instrument swapping, it has its place. I'm not saying it's bad, it's just not a good strat when you're starting out. And even if it was, you certainly can't rely on it for too long. The second reason why your remixes may not be doing so well is because you are not marketing. I said this before, marketing is very important. I know it's something we don't really think about or want to do, but marketing is how you put your music out there. Again, I talk about marketing in its own video, so I'm not going to cover much here in this particular section. But this is crucial if you were trying to break into a sphere, or if you're trying to attract game developers for more client work using your remixes. The biggest thing I'll highlight here is that most remixers aren't really marketing their music as part of a bigger strategy. They don't really do it in a effective way, or, well, that's not fair to say coming from me, but there are other ways that I've learned about that I've noticed that people are not really doing. For example, getting a known figure to market your music for you is going to be much more effective than trying to market it yourself. And this happened to me by accident with Mario Kart Wii Rainbow Road remix. Contrary to the view count that you see now, today, GBA Rainbow Road was still my most popular Rainbow Road, even when I released Wii Rainbow Road. However, randomly, one day, the views for Wii Rainbow Road just spiked. It caught GBA Rainbow Road like almost instantly. So what had happened, unbeknownst to me, I should clarify, a well-known Mario Kart channel took my Wii Rainbow Road remix and started using it in his outros. It surprised me. I didn't see it coming. I didn't contact the guy. Every time he made a video and his fans and wanted to know where the music came from, they would come to my channel for the music. And that, over time, went and surpassed GBA Rainbow Road, which was, like, again, my crowning peak. I'm so proud of GBA Rainbow Road. That simple act acted as a very prominent marketing tool that ended up helping the entire Mario Kart series on my channel. Marketing is very important, and there are ways to do it. I talk about various ways to do it a little bit in part 5, I believe, and even more so in the remix guide. So if you want to check that out, you need to sign up to the waitlist below. Another thing I'll say in this section, you will have a much better time marketing your music if it was part of a series, because that acts as some form of anchor. That brings me to the next point of why your remix may not be doing so well. Your remix is not part of a series. What I mean by that is your remixes isn't consistent to a theme, a story, or some form of conceptual consistency. This consistency gives your audience something to look forward to, right? I call this concept in the guide the mental journey, and actually, we'll talk about it now. The Mario Kart series on my channel is a good direct example of this mental journey. I promised somewhere that I would go up the generations of Mario Kart, remixing all of the Rainbow Roads, uploading in batch. So under that framework, any potential subscriber that catches one song out of any of the batches, they would see that declaration and they'll be like, oh, I wonder if he's going to do Toad's Factory, I wonder if he's going to do Bowser's Castle from Mario Kart Wii or whatever. Songs that haven't happened yet from that point in time. That will make them at least remember me. If this series wasn't already complete, you would be anticipating your favorite track, your favorite song, waiting for me to do it. You would want to comment your favorite track in one of the videos as a means of influencing my decision for the next batch coming up. You would likely subscribe to me at that point in time to make sure you would know when that song was released if I did do it. To use an arbitrary example, let's say that I declared that I would remix all of the Legend of Zelda main themes in a orchestral rock format. Upon hearing that, your favorite Legend of Zelda song, within those parameters, within that filter, would pop into your head, and you would start trying to imagine what it would sound like. And if you can't, you'll probably want to keep an eye on me, right? That alone will at least lead you to remember me. People will not stick around or engage with your content if they're not expecting something bigger. Otherwise, you're going to start turning people into just lingering fans, people that just sit there. If you want proof, look no further than my own channel. I'm sitting around 11k right now, almost? Just shy of 11k? And my average view count sitting around like 500 occasionally. Because of my lack of marketing and online social presence, I'm currently, right now, trying to restore engagement for my audience and for my fans. And it doesn't help that I basically got off Mario Kart. So I have a lot of lingering fans that are sitting here. In this day and age, it's more important for you to at least be remembered than to have people follow you. I say that because it's common for people to watch and consume content but not subscribe, for example, or to not follow you on Twitter or something like that. What a perfect section to remind you to subscribe to the channel. Yay! Despite the plug, I'm being serious. You can find this trend across many of your favorite YouTubers, especially true with gaming. I have all these view counts, 86% view counts, but only 50% of you are subscribing. Back to the topic, having your track be a part of a series gives the audience or the listeners something to expect long term. They're more likely to remember you. There's an end goal. They want to see what happens when you get to the end goal. They want to follow you on that journey, essentially. And it's in that way that you start to understand that a remix series has a lot of marketing potential. For example, let's say you pick a very famous song, Zelda's Lullaby. Let's go with that. If you delay Zelda's Lullaby in your remix series and don't do it until like the tail end of your remix series, your audience, they'll know that that song is coming and they'll be waiting to hear it. And then one day you surprise them with it. Again, I talk more about marketing inside of the remix series guide, so join the waitlist below if you're interested. The next reason why your remixes may not be doing so well kind of parries off instrument swapping and honestly everything in part 1 of the series, and that is no surprises. Like, you want some form of hook or some weird surprise, like something that they're not expecting. Because again, if they wanted to listen to the original, they would just listen to the original. Thanks to the development team, FusionFall Legacy is full of surprises. It's full of genre shifts, it's full of leitmotifs, it is full with like various corporate. There's surprises everywhere. It doesn't sound too similar to the original while still having that original feel to it. If you're here from Mario Kart, a few direct examples from me would be my DS airship, adding the airship thing, GameCube Rainbow Road, where I did a key change. Oh, and Toad's Factory, the factory sound effects. Having a surprise can actually help with marketing as well. Instead of a surprise, you can have a hook and declare that hook of your remix inside of your title. And that's something I don't see like a few remixers doing. Like saying, hey, check out my remix, isn't going to do as well as, hey, check out my remix in this style. If you get consistent with surprises in your music, you start giving your listener more than just music. It becomes like a little game for them to play with you. They'll be clicking on your music trying to find that surprise. Now, regardless of the angle you want to approach this here, having some sort of surprise works wonders for your exclusivity. To explain exclusivity, let's move on to the last point here. The last reason why your remixes may not be doing well is because you are not researching or comparing your remix to others. This is a big one. Now, I understand that remixing game music is supposed to be fun. However, if your goal is to build a business or build a following, you need to take from the mindset of businesses. In order for a business to grow, they need to see what everyone else is doing to make sure that what they got either stacks up or adds to the spear. In other words, they need to make sure they are differentiating themselves in some way. Like Windows compared to Apple, even though they are like two computers that technically do the same thing, it's clear that people gravitate to Windows for one reason and Apple to another. Now, back to music. I did this with many of the Mario Kart songs, actually. I would listen to a bunch of other remixes that already existed because I wanted to see, like, what could I do differently. That, in comparison with the stuff I was doing from part 1, I was consistently creating remixes that haven't really been heard before. Until the booster course passed, I mean... As game musicians, honestly, from anyone doing art, you gotta take from that mindset if your intent is to grow. If you're a hobbyist, you probably don't really care. But if you're trying to grow, you need to understand how you are being different from everyone else around you. What sets us apart from each other musically is our creativity. Your creativity being compared to another musician's creativity, that is the worst thing that can happen to you when you're starting out. For those that remember me not wanting to touch the Mario Kart series, this is that reason, basically, because I didn't want my creativity being compared to Mario Kart 8. So I specifically remember seeing comments, Nintendo would do this better, or if they remixed this in Mario Kart 9, it wouldn't sound like this. Comments like that. Now, of course, I'll be honest, it was my first time experiencing comments like that at the time. But in short, it got me thinking along the lines of, I don't want my remixes sounding like Mario Kart 8. I don't want to be compared to Mario Kart 8 specifically. Like, it really was that petty, or at least that's how it started. That's actually how I got into researching like other Mario Kart music. And I remember noticing this, but over time, with me constantly doing that, like instead of Mario Kart would do this differently or Mario Kart would do that differently, it started morphing into, I wonder how Mario Kart 8 will do this differently, or I wonder how this remix would stack up to it. It was no longer like I straight up lost. And again, fucking like a booster course pass. Like, I didn't realize this at the time, but my remixes were starting to set a standard for what people were expecting from Mario Kart 8. It started altering the listener's perception of how Mario Kart 8 would remix certain songs. Now, I don't say that to sound like arrogant or like narcissistic, but to highlight another concept that I'm trying to lead up to here. and that's called the Primacy Effect. The Primacy Effect basically means that we prefer whatever is first to us. For game musicians, that means that we have a bias for whatever the original is, and that includes original remixes or like other fan remixes that we really like. But in short, we have a bias to whatever is first to us. So imagine your remixes constantly being compared to this other greater remixes. It's going to work against you at some point because no one's going to take you seriously. You're going to seem like a copycat essentially. But the best way to avoid that is, again, problem solving, modifying, alterations, doing something different. Those three, in addition to researching, ensures that you are avoiding that primacy effect. Case in point, a few of you may have noticed this from the Booster Course pass. If you look at some of the comments on my channel, that there were people comparing my remixes to the official ones and saying that I beat the official ones. In their minds, I had set that standard and the original just didn't really stack up to it. Now, to be fair, there are other factors involved. Again, I'm not trying to be narcissistic here, it's that concept that I'm highlighting from the listener's perspective. My remixes, they aren't well mixed. They aren't live recordings. They're programmed. A lot of parts sound synthetic. I didn't know what I was doing as far as like mixing and composition at the time. There are a lot of reasons to say that I lose in comparison to Mario Kart 8. And yet those comments still exist. The Primacy Effect is very powerful. If you are new and starting out, you do not want your remixes to be compared to anyone else. Of course, that's exactly what will happen if you continue doing only popular music, only songs that people are searching for. It's not going to hold as much attention over time. You're not going to work extra hard. It is a balancing game, I will give you that. On one hand, there's the marketing side where you want to do what's popular and what people are searching for. On the other hand, if it's not unique enough or you want to be unique enough, it'd be better to stay away from it. You know what I mean? It's definitely a balancing act. But a remix series will help you create some hidden gems so that when you do touch on some of those more popular songs, they have more of a reason to stay around. They're staying for your creativity because you're the only ones doing a certain thing. That brings me to exclusivity, which is the natural counter to the primacy effect. Exclusivity is, to be blunt, making sure that you are the only person on the internet with that particular remix. You don't have to focus too deeply on exclusivity. It is only there to help you avoid the primacy effect. That's more important. All this stems from just researching, listening to other people's remixes. If your goal is trying to stand out, attract an audience, or attract more game development, you have to research what's currently out there so you can make sure you are being unique in your execution. Again, this video was meant to help you improve your remixes, similar to part 1 where I talked about some applicable steps here that you can take. Everything I talked about in this video and in this video series can be found inside of my eGuide, the Game Music Remix series. If you've been following the parts in order, the next part, part 4, will be talking about how to construct your remix series. Now that's going to be a bit shorter, fairly simple, but if you're interested in the eGuide, go ahead and sign up to the waitlist below, and once the guide releases, I will provide you guys a 50% discount for a limited time, just for you guys. If you have any other questions or curious about the other eGuides I'm making, consider supporting me on Discord. You can join for free, but I do offer lifetime 50% and even 100% off for any who back me on Discord. See you in the next video.